Tune in to Sports 360 with Ahmed Hamad.
All right, Sajjad, welcome to Sports 360. Zabardast feeling hai क्योंकि we have played together in
बिल्कुल
90s and obviously we
बिल्कुल
enjoyed cricket a lot.
we
Uh,
did
we did,
as very
absolutely.
close friends as well. We toured
And,
together as well.
and you have to tell us what was the name of our club.
Well, I remember we started playing friendlies as I think it was the International Gorillas,
Uh-huh.
and then became the International Cricket Club. And I don't know if you were still
It's
around
ICC,
ICC, but I don't know if you were still around.
powered by Sir Umar.
Sir Umar, yes, Umar Ali Khan, OAK, son of the great, mashallah, Shahryar Khan,
Yes.
and
Former Foreign
some,
Secretary of Pakistan.
yes. He later on, I think he also headed the PCB.
Yes, he was also the chairman of Pakistan Cricket Board
Yeah,
and
uh,
manager as well.
yes. And I also remember because of their well-known connections, we used to have big names attend our training sessions, like the great Majid Khan, Imran Khan, Sarfraz Nawaz, and current Test players used to come and play or practice or attend our sessions as well. And I remember even when we visited Lahore, I think some of us stayed at the former Prime Minister Imran Khan's house as well.
Okay, coming back to the Ashes at Leeds, the third cricket test is in progress.
Yes,
And Australia have lost, I guess. They have recovered after the early loss of 4 wickets, with Mitchel Marsh scoring a century. They were 240 for the loss of 5 wickets and were bundled out for just 263.
yes.
So how do you see that?
Well, I think that it's just Mitchell Marsh was batting very well today. He basically applied himself, and he reminds me a little bit of Usman Khwaja when he's grabbed his chance to make a comeback. Because if you walk outside, which I have been doing, gathering stuff to replace my lost luggage, there's a breeze, there's a cloud cover, and it's not that warm. So the conditions are good for bowling here.
Suits bowling, obviously. Apart from Mitchell Marsh, who I already told you that he has scored a century of run-a-ball century, hitting 17 fours and 4 sixes. Travis Head, to some extent, scored 39. Rest of the batting, if you look at the batting chart, all the batsmen failed to perform significantly. What do you say? What a
Yes,
turnaround! What a turnaround for England. They have. I have to say that they have the right team for this match. They have dropped Jimmy Anderson. They have brought in Chris Wokes and obviously Mark Wood.
Well, I think Jimmy Anderson should play for England in the over 40 World Cup with me in September and not play the Ashes.
40 plus. So you have turned 40 now.
Well, actually, I've just turned 50, but I
Oh,
did get selected for. Yeah, I got selected as a reserve for the over 40 Canadian team for the World Cup in Pakistan in September. For the over 40
Looking
World
forward
Cup.
to Sajjad. Looking forward to see you playing in Pakistan after a very long time.
Well, yeah, so right now I'm in the reserves, but I do hope to maybe get a few overs fielding on the field. It'll be nice to be playing official cricket in Pakistan after such a long time.
And just to keep in mind, we have changed the pitches. Remember, you have played on pleasant pitches. Now it's grassy and bouncy pitches.
Yeah, I remember I used to try to flick the ball from off stump to square leg, thinking I was Mark Waugh back in the day. And I used to give Sir Umar and my coach, our coaching staff, nightmares if I got LBW. But coming back to this test match, the thing that I think really changed is twofold. One, there's a bit of grass and there's help in the atmosphere for the bowler. And Chris Wokes is deadly in these conditions. And on the other hand, pace is pace. Like you cannot. It's just so hard to play a bowler like Wood. Even on the very good pitches in Pakistan recently, you saw he gave a hard time to some of our very good batsmen in Pakistan. Like pace is always going to be hard to handle, especially when there's a little bit of help. And like I said, if you walk outside, you need a bit of a sweater here or some light jacket because there's a breeze and it's a cloud cover. And this is something that I think that really has helped England today, plus the pace. And unlike at Lord's on the first day, this time they took advantage, except for the Marsh and Head, partnership. Another thing I'll mention is everybody on the street seems to have an eye or one eye on the game.
Mhm.
Like it's actually like it used to be when we were kids in Pakistan, when you'd see people sitting on the sides of the road listening to the radio, and you could ask anybody what's the score, because when Pakistan played a big game, everybody was following it. So I'm getting deja vu. I'm feeling nostalgia back to the old days where you had Test cricket really meant something in Pakistan. And it's really refreshing to see everybody here is following it. When I told customs that I'm here to watch the Ashes Test match, somebody at one of the offices said, "Oh, the Aussies are staying at that hotel. You can go and boo them in the lobby over there."
I think England have the edge looking at batting of Australia in the first inning, as they were just bundled out for 263. And England have got another good start. Baseball cricket, 3 overs, 18
Yes,
runs. Are they
yes.
going to continue play the same style, or they more focus on winning the test match and coming back into the series?
Yes. Baseball. You know what I like about baseball? It's how I wanted to bat with you back in the day, but we were never that good as these guys are. They're so amazing, and the reason why I love baseball in terms of it gives their bowlers a lot of time to ball out the opposition. Now, traditionally in Test cricket in countries like England, the second day is the best day to bat.
Okay.
So I do have a lot of hope in to see England bat very well tomorrow. Now, will they do it? Let's see. But the thing is, I still rate the Australian attack as the best attack in the world right now, except they don't have Nathan Lyon.
In Australia, have Todd Murphy. What will be the role of his spinners?
Yeah, in my opinion, one side he's supposed to tie up one end, control the run flow, give a break to the bowling unit, the fast bowling unit, because they're playing a lot of back-to-back test matches on this cricket tour. So the fast bowlers, their fitness is being challenged. Secondly, if you can get a spinner, and I believe he's not a bad spinner. If he can control and tie up one end, I think he will have done his job in the first innings. In the second innings, assuming the wicket breaks up or starts to have variations, when you have the footmarks like the fast bowling footmarks like Mitchell Stark, I believe he's playing, so that will also help bring him into the game at a different level where he could contribute with wickets. But in the first innings, I think he needs to act as a control stock bowler to help the fast bowlers and bowl in tandem and partnerships with the other guys.
What would be in the mind of England getting out Australia so cheaply, 263? What lead they think that would be enough to win that test match?
Well, first, I mean, I think that because I am technically here as an English supporter, I'm an honorary member of the Barmy Army for one test match. So looking at that, the first thing I want them to do is get to the actual score of Australia with as little wickets lost as possible. And yes, baseball is a great tool. However, they need to be very careful and not throw their wickets away. If they're around 190 for one, they should try to weather the short balls this time, because if they don't get a lead of about 100 plus, I think it's a wasted opportunity, because they easily have the batting to score 350 or 400, and they're batting in conditions that are the best likely in this test match, the second day.
Most of the people were thinking that England were scared of Australian fast bowling. That's why they produced two docile pitches full of runs, no assistance for the fast bowlers. And look at today's match. These two entries, Mark Wood and Chris Wokes, they captured 8 wickets altogether. So that is the right selection for them. I don't know why they have not selected Mark Wood first, and obviously Chris Wokes, one of my very favorite bowler. I like his run up. I like his bowling action. Very smooth, very good, I must say.
Yeah, he's one of the most beautiful bowlers in world cricket in terms of watching his rhythmic run up. I mean, I remember watching some very beautiful bowlers over the years, but in recent times, I find Chris Wokes has a rhythm, and in English conditions, he's deadly. Another thing that surprised me is the fact that the last few tours, I mean, before 2019, they created pitches to suit the English bowling. They did not act fearful of the Australian attack. Even back then, they had some pretty good bowlers in the Australian team. I think even Stark was still around. I don't know if Cummins was before 2019. I'd have to look back and check. But their strength was blowing away the Australian batting on very difficult seaming wickets, pitching the ball up, using their local conditions. But in this tour, it feels like they wanted to support baseball. Now, on a side note, baseball was also supported by the fact that manufacturing of cricket balls was affected during COVID.
Sorry to cut you, Sajjad. England have lost their first wicket, and that is of Van Duckett, who scored heavily in the second Test match. He was caught by Carey of the bowling of Cummins for just 2. So England are 18 for 1.
18 for 1. Yeah, I haven't seen how he got out, but I'm gonna wonder if he was trying to dab again outside the off stump. It just seems like that's what his that's a strength of his, but the Australians have turned it into a weakness as well. But putting somebody at backward point or deep gully and forcing him to adjust that shot, he keeps getting out for that. I don't know if that's what Cummins did again, but one of the things I love about Cummins, and I wish and I hope that he succeeds and continues his success, is he has that attacking fast bowler captaincy style, which I love. And you can appreciate that. You were a fast bowler yourself, or I suspect you still are.
Do I?
You still are. I saw a video recently.
Gentle medium.
Okay. Because I remember, a fast bowler like yourself who has an attacking mindset, your captaincy style can never be emulated by a batter.
Aggressive.
Yes. And that's why I actually wanted to come and watch this Ashes, because it was a clash of philosophies, and very unique philosophies in terms of baseball. And on the other end, you've got a fast bowling, attacking fast bowler, reminiscent of Imran Khan's days. And by the way, I was reminding people that I believe one of the reasons why he became very popular was 1987 Headingley was one of Imran Khan's best Test matches.
Yes.
The Kershaw Lane end.
Exactly. Looking at the pitch and the assistance bowlers are getting, we all know that Australia have the potent fast bowling attack and they have the resources. They can restrict England under 263. And if they do so, what would be the second inning strategy for Australia? I don't think this match goes on for 5 days, maybe 4 days, it's over.
Well, I think that they'll bat Australia out of the game, because it'll be very demoralizing if England doesn't end up at least at par or 20 to 50 runs ahead. Because really, if you look at cricket, 20 to 50 runs ahead batting second is still on par, because it's harder to bat in the fourth innings. And if they don't reach that number of around 275 to 325, I think that it'll be demoralizing. And Usman Khawaja and David Warner, in those situations, they know how to frame the opposition. I can still remember some days watching them Warner put up 300 for 1 against Pakistan in these type of situations. So watch out, because Warner is when Australia's on top, Warner knows how to hammer the opposition. And then of course they've got people like Labuschagne and Smith to follow.
Sajjad, since you are in Leeds in England, and the rivalry we all know between England and Australia, are you feeling the fever in England?
Yes. I was just mentioning earlier that this reminds me of how, there were time periods when Pakistan was playing a big Test series, whether it was against West Indies or, the gripping series of our childhood to me were Pakistan versus West Indies, and then later on, Australia and West Indies had some good series. India had some great series against Australia as well. I still enjoy the fact that India always challenges Australia, who I consider to be the gold standard of Test cricket. And I really appreciate the fact that the world of cricket, when it comes to tests, focuses on the Ashes, especially when it's a good series. When it comes to white ball cricket, you might notice that everybody focuses on India, Pakistan. But yes, when I'm walking around, you can see people are into it. You see signs outside of stores where because the thing is, here in England, the regular stations don't cover it. Sky Sports covers it. And if you don't pay for Sky Sports, you don't get it on your television. So there's many clubs and bars and venues here that advertise that come, we've got Sky Sports Live for the cricket.
Since we are from the 90s era and we have watched great Pakistani fast bowling, Wasim, Waqar, Shoaib Akhtar, the reverse swing, the sheer pace, Mohammad Asif, do you think that these two teams have the type of bowlers which we used to produce?
So the reason why I feel like the bowlers that we saw back in that era were better is because batsmen back then were technically more sound in their defense. Many things have changed. One is the allure of T20 money. But what that has done is that that's created a batting technique which is far more aggressive. And that gives bowlers more options or more wicket-taking chances. I remember there were a lot more drawn test matches. Bowlers had to work a lot harder back in the 80s and 90s.
And the performance of Wasim and Waqar, obviously the talent which they have. Uh, Nowadays, I don't think these type of bowlers are playing in contemporary cricket because of the T20 cricket, because of the shorter
Yes.
format of cricket. Their fitness, they're eager to play more cricket. I think they lack somewhere here.
I think also back then people wanted to play longer. Now it seems like people are able to play internationally 8, 10 years, and they're okay to move on and maybe just play franchise cricket, which reminds me a lot of North American sports. As you know, I've been based in Canada and the U.S. for the past a few decades or so, and playing for your country is not what people tend to look for. They try to play for their franchise. Now, many people who are watching won't know this person, but his name is Carey Price. He's a great goalie of the Montreal Canadiens. He won an Olympic gold as a goalie for Canada, World Cup, World Championship, Junior World Cup. But nobody gives him the respect because he only came runners up in the Stanley Cup. He didn't win the actual cup. And so that is shocking to me. Whereas, because if you look in Pakistan,
Watching the qualifying round of the World Cup, so many associate teams playing, not
Yes.
Canada, not Canada.
No.
Even United States participated, and I guess they've lost today's match or they've won. Very near to
I
it.
haven't been following. I've
Okay,
been more
but
focused on.
they were participating, they were playing the qualifying round. Uh, are you rendering your services to Canadian cricket to guide, to coach, or to play for them?
So I'm more focused on Cricket Canada Masters or Canadian Seniors Cricket because that is my age group. I have worked with people who are now working with the national team. They're in very, very good hands. Recently, under the guidance of Coach Pupudu, who has been a player that I've played with, and I've talked to him as well off the field. Very, very sound cricket mind. I believe that they'll be back in qualifying. They lost one or two crucial games in the earlier rounds of qualifying. That's why they weren't in the final round. They lost a couple of crucial games.
Okay, going back to lead, game on. England have lost their second wickets, and that is
Oh,
Harry Brooks, caught by Stephen Smith off the bowling of Pat Cummins for just 3. So England are 22 for 2, and they trail by 241 with 8 wickets in hand. What's your prediction for the close of day's play?
well, I hope they don't lose another wicket because if they're 3 down,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that will look really tough. Right now, it's really down to Joe Root. He needs to stand up and support them.
Sajjad, 21 overs to be bowled. There's a
Oh, wow.
lot of overs.
Yeah, but even if they say 21 overs to be bowled, I don't know if they'll get through all of them. I've noticed that they've been 5 to 10 overs short in
Let's say
recent
10
days.
overs to be bowled. Then
Yeah,
10 overs are
yeah. So
also considered quite a lot.
no, they need
The way
to. They
Australians are
need to.
bowling, they might get 2 or 3. You never know.
You never know. And it just seems like under Pat Cummins, this bowling group, this Australian bowling group, seems to play very, very confident. Can you check? I didn't check. Is Boland playing? Because this pitch looks good for Boland, but I don't think he's been picked.
Okay, Sajjad, lovely talking to you, and it was a pleasure having you after a very long time. It
Yes,
reminds me the cricket we played in 90s, and looking
yes,
forward
yes.
to have you on the show during the remaining days of this Leeds cricket test.
Sounds good. I appreciate that. Thank you, Hamad bhai. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sajjad. Anyways, on this note, we come to the end of our show. Till our next program, it's goodbye from Sports 360.
Keep on watching Sports 360 with Ahmed Hamad for latest news, views, and interviews of sports personalities from around the world.